Hi friends, welcome back to our tutorials. We are continuing with our Angular 9 full tutorial series, and in today's episode I'm bringing you all about Angular components. After this tutorial you will be able to know what is a component, how components work, how important components are, and you will be able to generate your own components and start seeing them in action. My name is Sridhar. I bring over 10 years of experience as a full stack developer. I have knowledge on front-end engineering technologies like Angular, React, uh, and on the backend side, Node, Express. So I'm here to share my knowledge with you and also to learn from you all. If you have any queries during the course of these tutorial series, please drop them in the comment section below. I will be happy to help you for free. So far in the tutorial series, we have learned all of these tutorials. We have done around 8 tutorials so far, covering from basic to everything in detail about modules, decorators, CLI, folder structure, booting process, all of this. So if you have not checked out the tutorial yet, I request you to kindly go through the tutorial series. Also, you know that we are making notes of each of the tutorial, which will be really helpful for you in your preparation. So if you have not checked them out, please do that. And like I said, in the current episode, we will be learning about Angular components. We'll learn what are components in Angular, what is the importance of components in your application. We'll learn a little bit about app component, and then we will learn to generate our own custom components. So let's get started. This is all hands-on practical examples. So we are continuing to build our application, which is one conversion. That is the name of the project I have given. All right, so far if you see till tutorial 8, we have made some notes. I am making tutorial 9, which is Angular components. So let's make some notes along while we understand and the concepts of component. So, so first question is, what is a component? So component is a smallest uh, functionality or smaller set of functionality in your application, right? The broken down which can be reused over a period of time. Now, for example, let's talk, say you are building an application where you require simple, say, contact us uh, page or a form or feature or functionality for that matter, right? So you can design it as a component so that you can use it multiple times in multiple places. This may not be a good example. A good example can be, say, view task. For example, now you create it as a component so you can view it in different places multiple times. So a component is a smaller functionality which can be reused multiple times in the application. Also, it is a smaller functionality, smaller feature inside a big functionality, inside a bigger functionality. Now, let me give you some example of how I gave in previous episode. So let's say if you are building a system called authentication, right? If you are building a bigger feature called authentication, you can create multiple smaller components inside it. For example, you can say login is one component. You can say forgot password is another component. You can say register is a new component, right? You can say authenticate is a new component. So you see the bigger functionality is authentication, and these are all smaller components, right? So this makes it easy because it's granular, it's easy to maintain, and the code is more logically organized. If you see, right, all the code related to login will be in login, all the code related to forgot password will be in forgot password component, right? So that is the example that you can relate to. Let me write it down here, right? For example, this is a functionality, or in other terms we have learned in previous episodes that we can call it a module. This is a module for which there are multiple components, right? So this allows an easy maintenance, and development of code. So if you have multiple team members, each one can work on one component. That way they are all separate. It's easy to manage, right? And what happens in the build process is mostly tree hierarchy. So if you see, Angular is driven by tree hierarchy, which means it is made up of component structure. So think of it like this, tree structure, right? So you have your parent here, and then you have a child component 1, child component 2, child component 3. All this will add up into becoming a parent, right? So that is how the entire architecture of Angular is built on tree hierarchy, which means everything is a component, smaller piece. Small blocks become a tree. That's the tree hierarchy structure it becomes. All right, so now the next point is importance of components. So like I said, it's very important because it allows us faster development, easy maintenance, and smaller chunks of functionality, which means it will only do what it is supposed to do. You will load it, you can plug and play anywhere you want. Play the components wherever we need. So that way you are just injecting them or importing them rather. And then that particular piece becomes available to you when you import it. All right, so the next important thing is app component. So if you see by default, an Angular application comes with app module and app component. So let's see a little bit about app component. So in the previous tutorials, we have learned how to generate a component. We will see now that in action, but before that, each component, app component is the first starting point. So how do you relate it? So for that, first we have to go back to our main.ts file, collapse the app. Here you will see main.ts in under your source, right? So here, if you see in the main.ts, we are saying that this is a module and we should bootstrap the module. So which is the first module we should load? That is app module. Now, if you click and drill down to app module, you will see now I am in app module. Now, if you see here, we are saying bootstrap, that the first component it has to load is app component. Now, if you click on it and drill down to app component, you will come to app.component.ts. And here we are seeing that we have this simple title, right? This is the default code that comes. And then I'm just removing some extra things that we added in last tutorial. So this is the default one. So it has an at the rate component, which we learned that this is a decorator. It will take three parameters. Selector. This is the app root. This is very important because this is what is defined in your index.html app root. So take a look at this carefully, understand this concept really well. This is the name of the first component we want to load or start our application, right? This is where everything will boil down to. So the tree structure, in this case, the tree hierarchy starts with app component. If you see here clearly in the index.html, the only attribute or selector we have mentioned is app-root, which means this is the first component that will get loaded. If you see the component, here also we have given the same selector name. Now we are giving a template and we are saying which template. Usually it would be template URL, and we can give here the template URL name. So here we'll say /app.component.html, right? So now let's see that in action. Let's start this application here, ng-serve, which means it will run on by default port, which is 4200, and then enter. So let it build. All right, while it's building, let's take a look at this again. So here app component is the single most important starting point from where everything will start. The selector name is app-root. That is what is given in our index. This component has a HTML which is in the file app component.html. It has its own styles, so which is in app component.scss, right? Let's see the output. All right, so this is what it is right now. Simple. Let's change this title to say my project. Now you will see that it will change. Okay, let's see why. Welcome to one conversion. We will learn all about data binding in just in couple of episodes, so stay tuned. Right now I made it dynamic so we can see welcome to my project, right? So this is the corresponding HTML, this is the corresponding CSS. So this is how all components are. So these are smaller granular things, right? Now I'm going to show you how to create your own components. So I'm going to open a new terminal here and I'm going to go into one conversion, clear. Okay, so you see here, I had, if you are following the episodes, okay, my bad, sorry. Let's first make some notes for you of what we understood. So app component is the single most important component and is provided by default, right? Is provided by default. Then in the index.html, in the index.html file, we see the same selector name, that is app component, app root, I think. Yeah. Okay. So this is the app component. This is what gets loaded. Each component, each component will have three important things: selector name, template, URL, or just template. I'll show you example of both. And then you will have styles URL, right? Just like this here. Now this is just template. Okay. So either we can provide a template URL, which means we are specifying where the HTML is, in which file. Alternatively, if you have only a smaller set of code and you don't want to have a separate HTML, you can just mention the HTML right here. This is also okay, right? This is also absolutely fine. Now it will say that this will not look into app component.html. It will just look into the template. So see, now it just is printing the template and not this entire thing which is welcome to, because I have just added it as a template, not as a template URL, right? I'm reverting it back, so we will start using temp. It's always good practice to use template URL. It's a good practice to use template URL and not template. The reason being that the code will be better organized and easy to maintain, right? That's important part. So that was all about component. Now, important thing about components is I told you that it works on tree hierarchy, right? So remember that you can have components inside components. This is very, very important. Understand this well. You can use components inside components. Like for example, we will see that now. Let's generate a component and we will come back to this. So I'm going to mark it here so that we know we are going to come back to this, right? So we will come back to this when we generate some components. So let's now learn how to generate custom components, right? How to generate custom components. So to generate custom components, if you are following the episode in CLI tutorial, we learned in the Angular CLI tutorial, we learned about Angular generate command, right? Remember in tutorial number 7, we learned about ng generate component. So we are going to make use of that now here. Ng generate component. I also told you that we can use shortcuts. You don't have to write generate and component fully. Instead, you can just write ng space g space c, which means ng generate component. Now I'm going to change it here a little bit to show you. So here is the thing. I am now inside one conversion project, right? Which is at the root. So if I generate a component, it will generate it inside the app. Remember this very, very well. I am generating it inside one conversion. It will go inside the app. If I go inside to do, right? I'll go inside app. I'll go inside source. I'll go inside app. I'll go inside to do. Now I am inside the module of to do. So if you are following the tutorial that we saw in Angular modules, tutorial number 8, we generated a module here which was called to do module, right? So to do module, it's empty, it doesn't have any component. But to make it simple, I will just create it simply outside it for now, right? Wherever you create, it will go inside that. So I'm going to create it under one conversion only, so it should go under app. Let's create that. I will say ng generate component. I will say tasks. So it's a to-do list, right? So we are generating some task. So now you see it has generated the tasks component along with one HTML file, one unit test file, one component class, one CSS. It has also updated our app.module.ts, right? You can also clearly see that here under the app, right? So you have your tasks, it is defined in the app. Now you can go to app.module.ts and you will see an entry for your tasks also. Where is it? App.module.ts, yes. And there should be a component. Okay, let me close this and reopen it so then I can see it. Okay, so here we see task components. It created the task, all the required files. That's why it is all create command here. It updated the app module, so there is an entry in the import in the app module, right? Which what it means is that now this component is available in the entire module, which means we can now use this component anywhere inside the module. So remember that we can generate the components using ng generate component name command. So once you give this command, you will be able to generate the component. Once you generate the component, automatically the component will be updated and imported into the module. Now remember important thing, where you generate the component is very, very important. If you don't generate it at the root level, it will go into that respective module, right? Now let me show you that example also now. Now I'm going to navigate to source app to do. So if you see here this path, app source to do, this is a module, right? And there is no components inside this. Now I'm going to generate a component here and I will say completed tasks, right? So this is a new component I'm generating. So I can also write completed tasks. So now you will see it will update this module. So now see clearly the path. Focus here. It is added, it has added this component, create app to do. Under to do it has created these component and it has updated the to do module, not the app module, right? Can you see the difference? Earlier it had updated app.module, now it updated to do.module. And same entry you can see it in the to do module.ts. It has created a component inside the module here, and it updated the module here and imported that component. So where you generate your component is very, very important. The parent module will be updated accordingly, right? This is a very, very important um, topic. So make sure you have seen this again, go back, check out again everything, how we did. If you don't understand, ask me in the comments. I'll be happy to help you. All right. So now that we have generated two components, one is inside completed task, one is task. Let's start with some simple thing, which is going back to this point number 10. We can have components inside components, or else let me move this here, right? This makes much sense. So this makes much sense, right? So I'm going to remove that now. So we have got our two components that we generated. Now we will learn how to include components inside components, or we can call it as subcomponents, right? So for that, what I'm going to do, start with simple. I'm going to go to app.component.ts. If you see in app.module, we imported the task component, which means task is available for us to inject anywhere we want, right? So I'm going to task component. Let's click on it to drill down. The selector name is app tasks. Take this code and just put it in. I'm going to put it here. Simple. Take a minute to understand what is happening. I have gone to the component task. I have taken the selector name inside the component. We are taking the selector name, and I am just copying as a element, right? So this becomes a component. This is how you call components inside anywhere you want to call a component. You will use this in the same way. It's like an element now, right? Custom element, or you can call it custom directive, which we are going to learn in the next tutorial. But for now, understand that you will give the selector name followed by closing brace, right? Now let's go and see the output. So it says app.component.html. Obviously there is some mistake here. Dot slash app component.html, that's correct. In the component, I am going to take this and add it here. In the tasks, I'm saying task works. So it just, okay, so it just gives app. There is some error. Let's see that. Let's first, okay, that's because maybe we gave it template, right? That's why it should be template URL. Okay, so that is the change. So now you see we have our title, and we also see something interesting, which is tasks work, but that is coming from this task. So let's update it here. List of to do tasks, right? I save it. Now you see list of to do tasks. That means inside the app component, I'm calling a child component, which is tasks, right? Interesting. So this is how you will build multiple components, and then it will become a tree structure, right? So I'm going to cover that in the after the directives tutorial, where we will build a layout like this. So to call a subcomponent, we will use selector name and call the element in call the element basically, right? Call the component otherwise. All right. Now this was about using a component which is in the same module. What if I want to use a component which is in other module? So in the app module, you will see, okay, so first thing, so here the scenario is little different. So see, we are going to call we can include a component from other module into app module or any module for that matter, right? So including a component from other module, that's what we are trying to achieve. Task was in the same module like app, right? Task was in the same app module, so we could easily inject. But what if the component is like this, completed task, which is inside the to do module? So here first thing we need to do is import the module into app module. So we will say import that module name followed by to do slash the module name, right? This way we are importing all the components which are there in this module into app module, right? So now I've included the to do module, which means I have the completed task available. So I'm going to copy this selector name and again go back to app component, and here I'm going to throw in a h4 and say list of completed tasks, and I'm going to throw in that component here, right? So you see, now we are using two components inside app component. This component is in app. This is in app.module.ts. This component is in todo.module.ts, right?